Hi, I'm Bradley Sherman, and this is Population Next. Every other week, I'm taking your questions, whether they come through my subs at populationnext.com or if you leave them in the comments below on this YouTube channel to help you make sense of our demographic future. Not just the long-term changes that are coming with birth rates, longevity, and migration, but how these mega trends intersect with other challenges facing us these days. I provide you with data-driven insights that give you a sense of where things are and where they might be going in the coming years. During my first Q&A, I received a question about the crackdown on immigration in the United States, and it's a very difficult question these days. It's fraught with politicization, and obviously a tremendous amount of heartache. But underneath this is some pure economics about the labor market. And in fact, it's been reported that this will be the first year in likely 50 years where we'll actually see population from immigration actually reverse. And that's a pretty shocking development because so much of the US economy is predicated on constant growth, that constant flow of people into the United States. Following that video, which you can access on this YouTube channel and my Substack, I received some outreach from a good friend of mine, a colleague, Lauren Greif. And Lauren really pointed me to, I think, one of the more obvious questions is, okay, the labor market's going to tighten because we're going to have fewer people. Does this, in fact, mean then that people who are historically marginalized, women, people of color, LGBTQ, will they be more disadvantaged or less so? And I'm going to try to unpack this for you, giving you a bit of history and a little prediction and a little bit of a curveball at the same time. You see, every time there's been a tightening of the US labor market and there hasn't been a lot of immigration, we've seen historically disadvantaged populations actually enter the labor market at higher rates and fill a lot of the roles that are needed at that time. This happened during the Civil War. This happened during World War II. And it happened during the mid-century when the United States had one of its hottest economies on record. Now, we've had immigrants coming into this country in steady droves now for 50 years. So many of our systems have gotten accustomed to lower cost labor and, of course, a fairly good, consistent supply. In fact, that supply of labor has caused some of the political turmoil that we're living with today. So when you turn it off, what is likely to happen? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. We will likely see the cost of labor go up. We will likely see more women, more minorities, more LGBTQ, and yes, even more people with disabilities not only enter the labor market, but get hired into jobs. Now, this is good news, right? It's good news to see greater labor force participation from the people who are here and who can participate in the labor market. One of the challenges, though, is that historically marginalized groups often see an increase in their labor force participation and then a decrease. This is particularly evident during the Second World War, when women rushed into factory jobs as men rushed off to sea. But immediately as the men came home, women were basically relegated back into the home. So there's a bit of a question mark about what happens here, but in the short term, it's good news. The shift, though, that we're not truly prepared for right now is artificial intelligence and what that will likely do to employment. See, artificial intelligence isn't a substitute for human labor, but it's being used to augment so many of the redundant tasks in human labor that it is making the need for as many humans not as important. Now, people call this a jobs killer. Some have suggested that could wipe out a third of all jobs in the economy in the next few years. I'm not so sure that's exactly going to happen, but what it will do is it will start to reshape the labor market versus demand versus supply. And this will cause things to change again. And we can look for signals in this. We can look for signals from the past. During the great industrial age of the 1870s, 1880s, and 1890s, we saw incredible advances in technology. may be as great as today, but what that did is it actually created more opportunities for people to work. I think people are a little concerned about the speed of this transformation now, but we've lived through something like this before. But if we do have people being made redundant quicker, it is typically people who live in these marginalized spaces. And that is something to watch out for in the coming years. We can also look at what's happening right now among youth employment. And I know that people say that young people have it easy when coming into the labor market, but that's not entirely true these days. In fact, the most recent labor numbers coming out show that men, young men in particular with college degrees, have a 7% unemployment rate. That is nearly twice as much as the national average, and about what you could expect as a young man who does not have a college education. So there are some signals here that there could be some trouble on the horizon. We've also seen over the past few years a pretty significant uptick in the number of older workers in the labor market, those 65 plus. They've doubled, in fact, in the past 20 years or so, making up now about 1 in 4 people over the age of 65. Now, older workers are a bit at risk here because older workers tend to cost more. Their experience costs more. So this is something to watch out for too, especially because there is bias in the workforce. There are people that will say that older adults do not have the technology skills needed to transition into this period of automation, that they might be befuddled by the tech that's here or might be resistant to it. And this is why during this period of transformation, where we have less immigrants, more technology, it's really important for each and every one of us to really hold ourselves out for the skills that we have at work and show that we're valuable in literally everything that we do. So I often say focus on 3 core competencies, the 3 C's as I call them. Focus on your compassion, focus on your communication, and focus on your creativity. And by gosh darn, make sure that you're understanding the technology. So in short, yes, there's a lot of good news coming, but it could get muddied in the next few years with AI. But if you stay focused on the future and focused on what's coming, some of the trends we're seeing today, then we'll make it through. I'm Bradley Sherman for Population Next. Again, if you have comments or questions, drop them in the comments below if you're on my Substack at populationnext.com, or leave them in the comments below here on my YouTube channel. Thanks for joining.